You are a burden. Get out. Those were the last words my daughter screamed before my world shifted. 2 weeks later, she would call me in a panic about the frozen house account. But that night, everything broke long before the bank ever picked up the phone. My name is Martha Ellington. I am 67 years old. I had just come home from another long shift at St. Mary's Hospital, my back aching the way it always does after standing too many hours. The house was quiet at first, the kind of quiet that makes you hold your breath. Then I heard Lena pacing in the kitchen, her footsteps sharp, tight, like she was trying to keep herself from coming apart. She did not look at me when I walked in. She just said, "I cannot do this anymore." And the words came out like she had been practicing them. Bills were scattered on the counter. Her daughter's backpack was open on the floor. Tension hung in the air, heavier than the humidity outside. I tried to speak gently, to tell her I understood, that I knew things were hard, but every word I offered sounded like another weight on her shoulders. She snapped. First about money, then about space, then about how she was tired of always taking care of me, though I had been the one covering gaps and emergencies for years. Her voice rose until it hit the breaking point. You are a burden. Get out and never come back. I stood still, feeling the blow land in a place I did not know still existed. I did not argue. I did not remind her of the mortgage payments I had made, or the groceries I had carried in, or the nights I stayed awake with her child so she could rest. I grabbed the overnight bag I always kept under the bed for late shifts at the hospital. Lena did not follow me. She did not apologize. She watched with clenched jaws as I stepped past her and opened the front door. The air outside felt colder than it should have. I pulled the door shut behind me, and the soft click sounded like an ending. I did not know yet that in 2 weeks, everything she thought she controlled would fall apart. I only knew I was walking into a silence I had not felt in years, one that would carry me toward the life waiting in Chapter 2. The landlord didn't ask many questions. The unit had been vacant for months, so he just checked my ID, took the deposit, and handed me the key. Just a quick glance that said he'd seen plenty of women my age starting over with one bag and too many regrets. I didn't explain. I just moved in. For the first few days, I tried to keep myself busy. Instant coffee in the morning, the bus to the grocery store, late-night television reruns that filled the room with other people's noise. It didn't take long for the silence between each routine to grow louder than anything on the screen. One night, as I folded laundry that didn't really need folding, I heard myself whisper, it was supposed to be temporary. I hadn't meant to say it out loud. The words just slipped out. The truth behind years of agreeing to help out for a while. It started with covering Lena's overdue water bill when she was juggling a newborn and a job she hated. Then came a missed electric payment. Then groceries during the months she said she was too stressed to think straight. And then, slowly, the mortgage just a part of it at first. Then more. Then most. In my studio, I sat on the edge of the bed and remembered the look on her face every time I said yes. Relief. Dependence. Something tightening around both of us without me realizing the rope was mine to loosen. A text buzzed once on my old phone. My sister, Ruth, checking in. You settling in okay? She wrote. Trying? I typed back. She called immediately. Martha, you sound tired. I am, I said. But I'm also lighter. There was a pause on the line, not judgment. Just concern. You don't deserve what she said to you, Ruth said softly. I know, I murmured, biting the inside of my cheek, but I still hear it. After we hung up, the silence returned heavy, strange, almost alive. I lay back on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling as 2 weeks passed in a slow, hollow rhythm. I didn't know if I'd escaped or if I'd simply slipped out of a life no one noticed was missing. And somewhere out there, the house I used to help pay for was waiting to remind me. 2 weeks after I walked out of Lena's house, my phone lit up with her name for the first time. I stared at the screen so long, the call almost went to voicemail. When I finally answered, her voice came through in a sharp, uneven rush. "Mom." "The house account's frozen. Why didn't you tell me?" The landlord didn't ask many questions. The unit had been vacant for months, so he just checked my ID, took the deposit, and handed me the key. I took a slow breath. "What do you mean, frozen?" They said the last payment bounced, the mortgage. The utilities, everything came out of that account. "Mom, what did you do?" I almost laughed, not from humor, but from the shock of hearing her say it, like I'd sabotaged her life. "Lena, it's my checking account, or it was." "You know I depend on that money," she snapped, her panic rising. "Why would you just stop putting money in? You don't get to walk out and leave me hanging." "I didn't leave you hanging," I said quietly. "I left because you told me to." There was a pause. A quick inhale, like she hadn't expected to hear her own words reflected back. "You know I didn't mean that," she said. "But I can't deal with this right now. The mortgage is due, the electric bill is late, and the bank said we're behind." "When did you fall behind?" I asked. Another pause, a longer one. "It doesn't matter. I just need you to fix this. Like before the night she called me a burden, before I stopped refilling the account that had been quietly draining for months." "Mom," she said again, her voice shrinking. "Please," I didn't answer right away. I held the phone to my ear and felt the old roles shifting. Something long, buried, rising between us. And that's when my phone buzzed again, another call coming in, the bank's number flashing beneath hers. Lena called again before I even had time to lower the phone from my ear. When I picked up, her voice was sharp enough to cut through the room. "Mom, don't hang up on me like that. You can't disappear when the house is falling apart." "I didn't disappear," I said softly. "I left because you told me to. I was overwhelmed." She shot back. "You know that. But right now the mortgage is late. The electric bill hasn't cleared. And the bank says they couldn't pull anything from the house account. You have to help me." Her words came fast, tangled with fear and irritation, the same mixture I'd heard for years whenever a crisis appeared. I didn't respond. I let the silence sit between us until she grew restless. "Mom, talk to me. Don't do this." Still nothing from me. I heard her breath stutter, then harden. "So that's it. You're punishing me." I ended the call without answering. My hands were trembling, not from anger, but from something colder clarity. For decades, I'd rushed to fix everything before anyone even asked. Now my body refused to move. I set the phone on the bed beside me, stared at it for a long moment, then typed a single sentence. I thought I wasn't welcome. I hit send. It took less than 3 seconds for the typing bubbles to appear. Then the panic began. "Mom, no, stop. Please answer. I didn't mean it like that. You can't leave me with this alone." Calls, one after another, and texts piling so fast the screen froze twice. The anger from earlier dissolved into a frantic, breathless fear. I sat on my narrow bed in the studio, the phone vibrating beside me like a trapped heartbeat, and realized this was the first time I'd ever let my daughter feel the weight of her own choices. And that one quiet sentence shook her more than every sacrifice I'd buried under years of silence. The moment I sent that message, I thought I wasn't welcome. My phone lit up like it had been struck by lightning. Lena called first, over and over, the ring cutting through the small room like an alarm I couldn't shut off. I didn't answer. Then another name appeared. Evan, her ex-partner. I let it ring out, but his voicemail came through immediately. "Martha, I don't know what's going on, but Lena's saying the house payment didn't go through. The bank called me too. Can you call her back? She's losing it." Another call. "Grant, my ex-husband. Martha," he said. Voice clipped. Like I'd inconvenienced him on a business trip. Lena tells me the mortgage didn't get paid. She said you handled it. What's happening? Handled it. Like the last 10 years hadn't eaten through my savings while they all looked the other way. I didn't respond. 2 minutes later, a number I didn't know popped up. I answered only because I thought it might be the bank. Hi, this is Carla from Little Oaks Daycare, a woman said, hesitant. I'm sorry to bother you, but Lena listed you as the emergency contact for payment issues. We haven't received tuition for 3 weeks, and I hung up. Not because she'd done anything wrong, but because my chest tightened so sharply I couldn't breathe. The calls piled in one after another. Lena again, then Evan, then Grant, each one more frantic, more demanding, more certain I'd drop everything and fix it all. Just like always. Finally, I picked up one call from Grant. Tired of the noise, Martha, you can't ignore this. He barked. You know what happens if the mortgage falls behind. Just handle it. No, I said. A long, stunned silence followed. Martha, don't start with this. I said no. I ended the call. My hand shook. But for the first time in years, it wasn't from fear. It was from something steadier. Something that felt like the beginning of an unfamiliar kind of strength. Outside, the phone kept ringing, vibrating against the blanket like a trapped thing. I watched it, letting it scream without me. My quiet obedience had held that family together for decades, and for the first time, I'd let it fall the morning after the calls. I finally dialed the bank. My hand shook, but my voice stayed steady as I repeated the account number. The representative placed me on hold, and the silence on the line felt heavier than anything Lena had shouted. When she returned, her voice had changed. Miss Ellington, the mortgage has been in trouble for several months. We've received partial payments, late ones, and in the last 2 months, no payment at all. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. How far behind? Almost 3 months. Property taxes are overdue, and the HOA fees haven't been paid since early spring. The same time I covered Lena's small emergency $200 she swore was a one-time mistake. I thanked the woman and hung up before my voice betrayed me. 10 minutes later, Lena called. I answered. Mom, you talked to the bank, she demanded, her tone sharp and defensive. I did. I said, why didn't you tell me you were this far behind? She let out a long, irritated breath. Because I didn't want to lecture. The taxes went up, the HOA added new fees, and everything got worse. And you didn't pay them. I said quietly, I tried. She snapped. But Evan left in March, and I've been doing everything alone. I froze. Evan left Richmond. A beat of silence. Yeah, he said he couldn't handle the stress. I didn't tell you because I knew what you'd say. I wouldn't have lectured you, I said softly. I would have helped. You were already helping, she muttered. I used my credit cards, but they're maxed, and Harper's medical bills. I just couldn't keep up. My chest tightened. Why didn't you ask me honestly? Because I didn't want you to see how bad it got, she whispered. I didn't want you to think I'm failing. I leaned back on the thin mattress, letting the truth sink in. She hadn't treated me like a mother. She'd treated me like a hidden lifeline, something to pull when drowning, something to blame when the rope snapped. Lena, I said, steadying my voice. I can't be the answer to everything. She didn't respond. She was still sinking, and for the first time, I knew I couldn't jump in after her. Lena chose Cold Creek Park because it was halfway between her house and my studio, a place neither of us could claim as familiar ground. The wind off the James River cut through the trees. Sharp enough to make me pull my coat tighter, she was already there, pacing by the bench, arms folded tight across her chest. When she saw me, her face twisted anger, relief, exhaustion, all fighting for space. You took your time, she snapped. I came as soon as I could, I said. She let out a shaky breath. I don't know what you expect me to do. The bills keep climbing, The daycare raised their rates. The HOA added new fees. And Evan just walked out. Everything is crashing down on me. I know it's hard. I told her. But you didn't tell me any of this. Because I didn't want you judging me, she fired back. I'm doing everything alone. Mom, you're my mother, you're supposed to help me. Like you always have. The words hit harder than she realized. I've helped, I said. I've helped more than you know. She rolled her eyes. I'm not talking about groceries or the small stuff that was never small. I cut in. None of it was small. Lena, not the groceries? Not the utilities and not the mortgage payments I covered while you pretended everything was fine. She froze. I stepped closer. My voice didn't rise, but it steadied. I worked past the age I planned to retire because the house kept needing more. I drained my savings so you and Harper had stability. And the night you threw me out, you called me a burden while living under a roof I helped pay for. Her eyes filled instantly. Mom, I didn't mean it. I know, I said softly, but you still said it. Tears spilled down her cheeks, followed by another burst of anger. If you walk away now, I'll lose everything. I reached out, but didn't touch her. You won't lose everything. But you might lose the belief that someone will always catch you. She cried harder. And for the first time, I didn't move forward to hold her. I just stood there, letting the truth settle between us. Cold, heavy, necessary. And neither of us knew what it would break or what it might save once spoken aloud. I sat on the edge of my narrow bed that night. The air in the studio so still, it felt like it was waiting for me to decide who I was going to be next. My phone lay face up beside me. One call. That was all it would take to step back into the old pattern. I picked it up before I could hesitate and dialed Lena. She answered on the first ring. Mom, are you coming back? Did you figure out the mortgage? The bank said I'm not paying it, I said. The line went silent. I'm not paying the mortgage, the credit cards, the daycare tuition, or the household bills anymore. I continued. I won't reopen the house account. Her breathing sharpened. Mom, don't do this. You can't just cut me off. I'm not cutting you off. I said, I'm drawing a line. What does that even mean? It means I'll go with you to one financial counseling session. I'll sit with you if you want a real plan. I'll help you look for resources and options. But the responsibility belongs to you. No, Mom, that's not enough, she said, voice rising. You know how bad things are. I can't do this alone. You won't be alone, I said quietly. But I won't be the one carrying the full weight anymore. She cried softly, the sound thin and worn out. I need you. I'm here, I said, just not in the way I used to be. I ended the call gently before she could argue. My hand shook as I set the phone down. But the shaking wasn't from fear this time. It was from the strange, fragile peace settling in my chest, peace born from finally choosing myself. And the weight of everything I had always absorbed slipped. Slowly, back where it belonged. The first sign things were shifting came from Lena herself. She called one morning, her voice steadier than it had been in weeks. I met with a financial counselor. She said, they helped me call the bank. I'm trying to fix it. I didn't say I was proud. I didn't rush in with offers. I just listened. They said if I make consistent payments for the next 3 months, the mortgage can be stabilized. I cut the streaming services, canceled the gym membership, and I'm picking up extra shifts at the clinic. There was a pause, a small one, like she was testing the air. I didn't realize how bad it got until I had to say it out loud. She admitted, I should have told you. I should have faced it. You're doing it now, I said. For the first time, she didn't argue. Weeks passed quietly. Then one evening, when the sun was sliding low through my studio window, my phone buzzed with a long message from her. I read it slowly. Line by line apology tangled with shame. Gratitude sitting right beside fear. But one sentence held me still. Thank you for not saving me this time. I needed to see what I was doing. I sat with those words until the room felt full. Then I opened my banking app and deleted the last remaining autopay link to the house account. My hands didn't shake. And the space that choice created was something I hadn't felt in years: room to breathe, room to let her grow, room to finally step into a life that wasn't built on holding everyone else up. The months that followed didn't rush. They unfolded slow, careful, almost tender. I picked up a few shifts at the hospital, enough to keep busy, not enough to drown myself the way I used to. On my days off, I walked along the James River, let the wind pull at my sleeves, and visited the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts whenever admission was free. I even joined a tiny book circle in Carytown, where no one knew me as a mother, a fixer, or a safety net, just Martha. One Saturday morning, there was a knock on my studio door. Lena stood there with Harper on her hip, a bag of crayons in her free hand. "Can we come in?" she asked softly. I nodded, stepping aside. There was no talk of mortgage payments, no frantic requests or buried accusations. Just the three of us at my small table, coffee for me, juice for Harper, crayons rolling between our elbows. Lena watched her daughter draw, then looked up. "Mom," she said quietly, "thank you for everything and for stepping back." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Freedom hadn't come the night she told me to get out. It came the moment I understood I was allowed to build a life that was mine. If you've ever reclaimed your life piece by piece, like and comment so others can find their way too, and subscribe if you want to hear the rest of mine.